It's okay to be vulnerable and not look like you have it all together all the time.
Calling all supermoms. Grab your coffee, tea, water, smoothie, wine, or a cocktail, and join us for a dose of laughter, camaraderie, and the reassurance that you are not alone. We're diving into the complexity of modern motherhood because every mom deserves a mic drop. I'm Vanessa McAfee.
And I'm Renee Arthur.
And we are the hosts of the Motherhood Moments podcast. We are two sisters from Michigan who both had babies during the pandemic. After a few years of getting this new role of motherhood under our belts, we felt curious about how other moms are doing this mom thing. We decided to dive deeper and interview some amazing moms in our network, and we want to bring you into our network and share their stories with you.
Welcome to another vibrant moment on the journey through motherhood. Today, we dive into the incredible life of Annika, a powerhouse born in New Zealand, raised in the Middle East, and now proudly embracing motherhood in Ann Arbor, Michigan. As a devoted wife, mom to a 2-year-old, daughter, and another one on the way, Annika effortlessly balances her role as a mother with her career, proving that being a working mom adds an extra layer of strength and joy to the adventure of raising a family. Buckle up for an inspiring episode filled with love, laughter, and the unwavering spirit of a woman who is a wonderful example of how to master the art of modern motherhood.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're so excited for you to be here. All right, we're just going to dive right in. So, how did bedtime go tonight?
Oh, God. It went okay. I like this question because it changes every single day. My daughter is 2.5. She's almost 3. It's been a difficult time recently. She's been struggling with some big feelings, I think, because I'm pregnant. So she knows baby is on their way and she's very aware of that. So big emotions recently. She has a tough time with like transitions, always just testing things whenever it's okay, now it's time to go upstairs for bath. Now it's time to whatever. But overall, it was fun. She wanted to stay in the bath for longer than I wanted her to stay in the bath. And she wanted to read more books than I wanted to read her.
Oh my gosh, how many books?
We did 3 books. And then she's been doing this thing where she goes through the book on her own, just flips through the book and just has her moment. And then we have to airplane into the crib. We have to pretend we're on an airplane. That's the only way that she goes into the crib. But she's actually really great. Once I put her in the crib, we do kisses and all good. But we have like a routine. So she's always in bed by like 7:15, I would say.
Wow, 7:15.
Just wow.
She does wake up at 6 on the dot. So you guys, I think, might have kids that sleep in a little later.
We don't, or I don't. Lola's up. She has a sound machine, and as soon as her sound machine turns purple, she can come out of her room.
Which is what time?
It's set at 6:15, and as soon as it turns 6:15, I hear her. She sleeps in like a little tent. I hear her zipper open. And she's opening the door in the second.
I love that she is so precise with listening to the colors. And
It's still kind of a free-for-all with my schedule. So I'm just taking notes. I'm just here. BK does sleep in. He also does not go to sleep consistently at the same time. So it's like he gets his sleep no matter what. Definitely aspiring to be like you, Annika.
Oh, gosh.
But the consistent bedtime, that would change my life.
Yeah, well, it is very nice to have a reliable bedtime. But I also recognize that that puts me in a stringent place when it comes to weekends or plans where we may not be home at 7. You know what I mean? So I think you have the benefit of maybe being a bit more flexible and less stringent if you want to be, whereas I'm like, we're going home. It is bedtime. You know what I mean? Which I'm sometimes like, oh my God, I'm so lame. I'm such a stickler, but I don't know. It's worked and she's a good sleeper.
Yes, this is amazing. And I love that we're talking about this because our listeners being able to even think about like the parenting styles and just like what type of mom will you be or are you? Or are you flexible? Or, it's just always interesting because everyone always has a different answer.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Okay, we want to learn a little bit more about you. And we want to know if you have any advice for moms looking to establish effective daily routine.
Hmm. It's a nuanced question for me because I started out when I was pregnant thinking about like the routine and the sleep and making sure there was structure because I'm the type of person who likes a lot of control. And that was like the one thing that I felt like I could control, the structure and the routine. And I think I swung too far at the beginning, definitely postpartum anxiety level of like, oh my gosh, my daughter needs to sleep for this long at this time. And her nap was meant to be an hour and a half, and it was only 45 minutes. And oh my God, the day is ruined. So there was that at the beginning, which I have since moved on, thank goodness. But that helped in some ways after I got over the like initial postpartum, which is always a crazy time. For me, the structure created freedom for myself. And I know that that's different for other people, but for me, it was a sense of freedom because I knew, okay, my daughter always naps from 1 to 2, and then she naps again from 4 to 5. But at least I knew, like, oh, I can go hang out with Vanessa and Lolo during this time because I know my daughter is awake during this time and it won't be chaotic. So that was helpful for me. Whereas I know that other people might think that that's rigid. But my daughter ended up being a good sleeper, and sleep is very important to me. This is like beyond my time that I'm usually awake.
We're past bedtime over here.
Yes, I love to sleep.
So now that you're pregnant again, congratulations.
Thank you.
What advice do you even have for yourself going in, moving from a first time mom to now having two littles and thinking about your schedule with a newborn? Like, what advice do you even have for yourself?
Oh my God, Renee, you're catching me on the week where I've been freaking out about this just because it seems like go time. And I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be another infant here, as well as this toddler who already requires so much time. Do you know when you, like, before you had a kid and then you have a kid and you look back and you're like, oh my God, I had so much time when I didn't have a kid. I feel like I'm going to have this second kid and be like, I had so much time when I had one kid. And just like, what should I even do with my time? Because it's so much more. I don't know how we're going to balance it, but I think right now my husband and I do a good job of like on the weekends giving each other time for, oh, I want to exercise or I want to see a friend or I want to XYZ. So my husband will take my daughter and vice versa. If Andrew wants to do something or he likes projects like house projects. So if he wants to do a house project or something, I will take her. And then the other person gets a break. But I feel like when you have the second kid, like who gets a break? When? Do you're just always sort of taking turns with each child? And I know that at the beginning, because physically the baby will want me more because I'll be breastfeeding. And so I don't know how it's going to work, but actually, I've been looking actively for a therapist because I haven't established one and I want one for this time because I think I didn't enjoy the postpartum period the first time as much as I thought I would or I want to for this time. So actively trying to find a therapist to help me kind of get ahead of the anxiety that I talked about that I experienced the first time so that I can kind of enjoy things a little bit more this time because the little newborn phase is so sweet. And if you get worked up about the schedules and the anxiety and all the stuff that comes along with being a new parent, then you'll miss it. And I feel like I kind of did with my daughter. I was just so anxious about everything. So hopefully the second time around, I can relax a little bit more and enjoy it a little bit more, be a little bit more flexible, which I need to be because I have two kids now.
That's so great that you're thinking about it ahead of time. You're already putting yourself in a mindset of like, I need to be a little bit more relaxed, or like, this is how I want to approach it. Finding a therapist that would be really great.
Thank you. And that would be advice to myself 3 years ago when I was just having my daughter. I wish that I had looked more actively for a therapist and stuck with it a little bit longer than I did versus just being like, oh, that person and I didn't click or it wasn't who I was looking for and then kind of giving up,
Yeah.
which is what I did. I think that would have helped a lot more if I found someone maybe even before I had my daughter and just had some support through all of it a bit more.
Yeah. You have to date therapists to find the right one.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I was like, oh, I'll just, it's like finding your doctor. You just go find a doctor and that's your doctor. But this is like such a personal relationship. So, yes, you have to date your therapist. Do you guys have therapists?
Not currently, but I got a therapist when I was pregnant. I had been in therapy previously, and I kind of just knew I'm going to need to talk to somebody about just becoming a mom and like what that meant for
Yeah.
me. And so I'm glad I did because it was pre-COVID. So we had in-person sessions and I went every week. The therapist was like really close to my work office where I was working at the time. And then we met for a few sessions virtually after I had Lolo and then stopped. And then it was just like the frantic time, the postpartum time. I didn't have time, or,
Yeah.
I didn't think I had time. Even though I had a structure in place, it was like it kind of went away. But I came back to it last year.
Oh, good.
It's kind of like 2 years in, I came back to therapy. And now I just read a lot. And I know you read a lot.
I do love to read. Love to read. Yes.
And I find myself just like reading a lot more to kind of help with things like mindset and motherhood and that type of thing.
I don't have a therapist. I've been trying to open up and talk to my friends and family more.
Mm.
And it's not that I don't believe in a therapy, but I wanted to start there with just kind of even practicing, even just opening up.
Oh, it's hard, right?
It's hard. It's just such an unused muscle. So I'm trying to open up to my husband more and just like my friends, like something's going on with me, just say it. Just tell someone. I've been opening up to people in my life
Yeah.
and just telling them more the truth about what's really going on and not wearing a mask and trying to put on a brave face all the time and just breaking that down.
Yes. That was my issue the first time. The brave face. I was the first of my friends to have a kid. I was 29, so on the younger end. And all my friends were in serious relationships, maybe just getting married or just getting engaged. And for some reason, I was all about making it look easy, or when I was with my friends, making sure I still came off as fun and I could still participate and be cool. And my kid wasn't going to change anything. But it's like, your kid changes everything.
Right.
Everything. I mean, yes, of course, I still hung out and I had fun, but we would go on trips and like I was pumping because I have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's part of it. And yeah, my kid's gonna cry, and yeah, we have to have her nap, and yeah, I'm different, and I'm realizing now it's like it's okay, it's okay to be vulnerable and not look like you have it all together all the time. That was definitely something I learned, and I'm realizing I don't want to do that with the second kid either.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move to our next question. We're going to talk a little bit about your career and how that's changed over time. How have you balanced your career goals with your motherhood aspirations?
That's a great question. I have an interesting story. So Renee, when she introed me, explained that I was that I'm not American, that I didn't grow up in America. So I'm originally Sri Lankan. I was born in New Zealand, so I have New Zealand citizenship and passport, but I actually was raised in the Middle East. And I grew up watching the TV show Friends. So that was my benchmark for what America was. And I wanted that life really bad. So it was just mine and my brother's goal to move to the US and like make it here and live in an apartment in New York and do all of that. So when it came time to apply to colleges, applied to all universities in America and figured the best way to like establish myself with a job that I could make money and live in New York would be business, which is also what I've seen my family do. Many of my family members are in business. So I applied to business schools specifically. And University of Michigan has a great business school, the Ross School. And I ended up here in Michigan. And yes, it was very overwhelming at the beginning to be like, oh, America's not,
Not friends,
it's very different.
especially not Michigan.
No, 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 no. But it was an awesome experience and met my husband at University of Michigan. But all this to say, when I was applying for full-time jobs after college, my options were a little limited because there's only the larger companies usually that will pay to sponsor an international student to get a visa because it's very expensive. So things like even like a Pepsi wouldn't do it, but Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, like huge, large companies like that were willing to. So that was sort of what I was pigeonholed into, like a finance job at a large company like that. I also want to get to New York, and those companies allow me to do that.
Yeah. The apartment in New York.
Yeah, that was the goal. I had to live in my apartment just like friends. I ended up getting a job at JP Morgan in New York. And I just was so career driven when I first started out there. I was 22 and working at the headquarters in New York City. And I got to dress up every day and wear heels. I was working with ultra high net worth clients in New York City. So that's like all the names that you know about. And it was like a very high profile, cool job, especially at 22. And what I saw at work, because it's just crazy in New York, it's very cutthroat and most people there are very aspirational when it comes to their career and hard workers and all of that. So everyone I worked with, even when they were moms, were at the office until 8, 9 o'clock. And they would come in at 6, 7, and they had nannies and they had all of that stuff to help them with their kids because they're earning a ton of money. But that was just what I saw. And you kind of don't talk about your kid and you show up for FaceTime. This is pre-COVID, right? When everyone goes into the office all the time. But that was just kind of what I thought it was like. If you wanted to make it, you do those things, you show up, you work those hours, and you don't talk about your kid. And you don't, like, you kind of have to sneak out for a doctor's appointment and like don't tell anyone and that kind of thing. It's like now my perspective is like, oh, that was weird. But that was what I thought was the norm. And then COVID happened, and my husband was applying to residency programs, and we found ourselves matched at the University of Michigan, which actually is where we wanted to go because we wanted to start our family, and my husband's family lives here. But we ended up moving here in 2020, and just like the world changed and my world changed because I came here and I stayed at JP Morgan, but I moved to a Michigan focused team. And everyone here is lovely and so kind. And work-life balance is huge. And they talk about their kid in meetings and their families and what they did over the weekend. And you leave at 5 at the latest. And then, of course, remote work was the norm. So it was just such a change of pace. And I was like, this is nice.
Yeah.
I was also pregnant. So I appreciated the fact that I had more flexibility and I could be at home and I didn't have to ride the subway to get to work at 7 a.m. But I did think maybe because of what I'd seen in New York, I was like, that's not what I want when I have a child. Like, I don't want to be working crazy hours and be so stressed out. That was fine in my 20s and it was fun and exciting and a career focus. But like now I'm going to have a child and now I don't want that level of stress or whatever. So I'll probably have my kid and then quit because my husband is now making money. He was in medical school before. Now he's making money. Maybe I could stop working, or at least in the near future, stop working. And then I had my child, and Vanessa's laughing, but I was like, it was just so much harder than I ever thought it would be. And I swear I think it's because I just was the first of my friends to have a kid. And my whole reference point, once again, was movies and TV shows of like what it's like to have a child where they have the kid and then you like kind of stop seeing them in the episodes or they're just cute in the background. And I was like, this is what having a kid is like, right? Like I can still go to coffee and dinners and she'll just sit there. She's just cute.
Wow.
It's like, no, no.
You can take them with you, right?
Yeah, you can go to coffee.
But you're not having fun, probably.
I'm not having fun at coffee unless I'm alone. So that just rocked my entire. Sometimes I'm like, how did I not realize that? I don't know. So that changed my whole perspective. Also, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so I kind of figured, oh, I would want to do what my mom did. But I didn't because I noticed I mean, I did go back to work at 4 months after that was my maternity leave. And that was hard because 4 months, they're still tiny. But then as she got older and needed me less and less, and I stopped breastfeeding after a year and all of that, it was like nice to have a break from her during the day. I have a new perspective now of what work and life balance can be. Like it can be healthy and it doesn't have to be me being ultra stressed out and not seeing my child because that's not what I want. And it's not what I have. I'm really lucky that I have a schedule where I work from home most of the time and I am able to be there in the mornings and in the evenings. I always do dinner with her. I always do bedtime. And so I get that time with her, but I also get the time for me, which is huge to just have the day where I'm conversing with adults and worrying only about myself for like a few hours. It's like mentally just a great release for me. It makes me better as a mom because I think otherwise my husband would come home and I'd just hand him my daughter and be like, I'm done. I need a break. I have so much respect for stay-at-home moms. I don't know how they do it, really.
Yeah, I work part-time now. So, and for me, that has been the sweet spot to
Yeah.
have more flexibility, but still work and still grow that part of my brain. But yeah, just have a little bit less stress. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. And with the show, we really want to talk to all different types of moms doing all different types of things. Yeah, hearing your journey though was really interesting, like especially because it involved like a change in location of work. So it's
Yes.
not just switching from working remote and all that. It's like you really had a complete shift.
It was complete. It was a complete shift for the good. Sometimes it feels like a different life, the New York life,
Sure.
because it was pre-COVID too. I feel like pre and post-COVID feels like a different world in general. And then specifically for my world, like what I lived before COVID, and then moving here and getting pregnant and changing jobs and also changing environment. I look back very fondly on my New York days. That was so fun. And it was a really fast-paced way of life. But I love life here too. And it's so different because life now revolves very much around my daughter, as I'm sure yours do too. Like
Oh, yes.
even the weekends, it's like play dates. Okay, how can I keep her busy? How can I entertain her? It's not about me.
I'm always very self-conscious, like, okay, I need to expose him to like everything, right? Like music, dance, art. I'm like, oh, here's a yo-yo. Like maybe you'll be like the world's best yo-yo. Like, I'm like, no, you have to know how to juggle too. Like I really want your hand-eye coordination to be good. I'm very intense.
Oh,
Uncle Lawrence can help with that.
Lawrence knows how to juggle? Interesting. I want to see this. Totally with you, Renee. And there's so many like activities, and she's finally at the age like she's just about to turn 3, and I feel like a lot of activities start at 3, like ballet and soccer and tennis. And I'm like, well, I should expose her to all of it so that she can figure out what she likes. It's like, no, you don't need to do that. She is 3.
My favorite part of your story that you shared was going through the journey of how you really want to move to America, thinking about the like friends, like literally Phoebe and the coffee shop, and then you actually making it to New York.
Oh my God.
That's so fun. I love it.
It was so fun. But also Friends completely distorts reality of what New York is
Yeah.
like. That
Yeah.
apartment was huge. Like there's no way a waitress and a chef were affording these beautiful apartments. There's no way.
I love that friends have a serious following. When I go to events and I'm out selling for my business, I can see someone with like friends, like swag or friends themed things. And I'm like, wow.
Is that you, Annika?
Yeah, probably. I do love Friends.
Do you have a friend sweatshirt?
I don't have a Friends sweatshirt. I think I might need to get one. Did you guys watch Friends?
Just a little bit. I didn't know all the characters. I got the humor. So I watched it a little bit. But if you wear your friend's sweatshirt in public, you will find your people.
Your people will come to you.
They'll just come up and talk to you about it.
Hmm. Okay, speaking about TV, Annika, I'm curious to hear what have been your thoughts and your routines around TV and screen time?
Gosh, I went back and forth on that for a while, but it sort of organically happened. Andrew and I don't watch so much TV. We're not the family that has TV on in the background kind of thing. And our evenings don't really revolve around a show. We more read books before bedtime, like before our adult bedtime, not children bedtime. And then with my daughter, so it wasn't like tempting at all to kind of put the TV on for any reason. So she didn't really watch TV until maybe like one, maybe later than that, maybe like 18 months. And we would really limit it to like long car rides when we were driving up to Andrew's family's house, which is there about 4 hours away in Traverse City. We would put on a TV show, but she wasn't into it really. I feel like they can't even focus that much. So it was really only when she was closer to 2 that she started actually watching a show and was kind of mesmerized by it. But we really limit it to long car rides or travel days, like when we're on a flight or a car. And if Andrew's watching football or something, we'll put a show on for her because she wants to watch something, but it would be like 45 minutes, maybe. But what's interesting is I notice a correlation between when she watches more screen time and her behavior. So if she has, but I don't know if it's related to us traveling as well, because it usually if it's
Oh,
more
yeah.
screen time, it means like she's been traveling. But I definitely notice like she will have gotten, let's say, 2 hours of a show while we were driving. And that afternoon, she is just out of sorts, bigger emotions than typical. And I'll sort of be like, I swear it's the TV. And I don't know if it's the TV or like we just left Mimi and Papa's house, her grandparents, and she's upset about that.
Correlation, maybe not causation.
Yeah. I get why people put on a show though for their child because you just get time for yourself. It is a babysitter, but I don't like doing it. I don't like how it makes me feel. I feel very guilty. always. I know I shouldn't, but I do.
Wow. I think the final answer was 45 minutes a week. That would make a pediatrician like so happy.
Well, yeah.
So my son loves TV. His dad watches a lot of TV. It's soccer for my husband. So it's always been like TV's on, or watching soccer. He's also not very much into TV shows or movies per se, but definitely a lot of soccer.
Okay.
That's where the screen time started. And then now my son has developed his favorite shows and he really loves YouTube. And it's more about like animals or singing. And so I'm noticing that he loves music. And so I can also play the songs that he likes to watch now. I'm transitioning him into like a screenless entertainment, but nonetheless, he still likes to have music. So I'm definitely always keeping my eye on it. And I try to follow the guidelines of no more than 2 hours a day.
Wow, I love that term, screenless entertainment. That sounded so sophisticated.
I love music, so I definitely want him to love music and find joy in music and escape in music. I do have guilt around screen time too, but like zero guilt around music ever.
Yeah.
That's how we do it. But I try not to do more than 2 hours, but he definitely has days where there's more than 2 hours.
Same.
With Lolo, we limit it to when I do her hair, which ends up being like once a week for about 2 hours. And
Yeah.
she has her favorite show. She loves Trash Truck, which was selected by me because she didn't watch TV for the first 2 years. And because I didn't really do her hair until she turned 2. So it's like a part of our routine now. And so, but yeah, she loves watching that show, but it's a very slow paced. I can tell that she's mesmerized by it completely, but there's not a whole lot going on too.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it even when she's watching it. It's been interesting to add that to our conversations too. Like, what does she think about the characters and things like that?
So we wanted to know a little bit more about parenting styles. How do you navigate differences in parenting styles between your husband and other caregivers and yourself?
Okay. The type of parenting style that I aspire to, that I like to emulate, but I don't always, of course, we all have our moments, but in general, is Janet Lansbury. Are you guys familiar with her? She does respectful parenting, which is like similar, I think, to Dr. Becky, who I feel like more people might know Dr. Becky because she markets herself a little bit more. But the same idea, like respectful parenting, i.e., like not yelling at your kid, but setting boundaries, being firm with them, letting them have their emotions. Emotions are good, emotions are fine, which I love the idea of, right? We all do. I'm sure that sounds lovely. But in reality, it can be really hard when my daughter is having a big emotional outburst, taking it out on me, or it's directed at me, and just being able to like stay calm, not overreact, and then just like you're just absorbing the emotion while she has her emotion. And then you have to continue on staying calm and not releasing your emotion, right? So that can be really challenging, but that is sort of the approach I want to take. And I would say between my husband and I, we're very much on the same page. Before we had my daughter, like when I was pregnant, we read the books together and we talked about what style we wanted to take. And it was very much like let's be real, I was reading the books. I was telling him about this style, and he was like, great, I'm on board. Sounds great.
I was picturing, I'm like, you guys are both reading the books? Like, wow.
Like literally side by side.
No. It was just me. And then we would have conversations about it. I think he might have read the Janet Lansbury book. Maybe I should give him more credit than that.
Yes. Okay.
That's typically how it goes. And we've always been on the same page. Also, my husband is a psychiatrist, and he is like very patient, very level-headed, calm. I am not at all. So I'm the one to get worked up about something or like want to react in the moment. Whereas I think that approach in general is much easier and much more natural for Andrew. Like, yeah, have your emotion. My parents spend a good amount of time with my daughter. So, especially now as a parent, when it's not about me, it's about my daughter, being able to confront them about, like, hey, there might have been a better way to go about that. Or she doesn't have to give you a hug if she doesn't feel like giving you a hug right now. So, just being able to voice that more and recognizing, like, I am a parent now, I am an adult now, they have to respect me when I say these things is a challenge. And it's something I consistently have to work on, but I'm getting better and I do it, which is the most important thing. And it's hard, but I do it.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's very relatable. It's interesting how it works. We all have different backgrounds and different family structures, but that dynamic of however your parents raised you, what was missing, what was there, you think about it, you decide maybe to do something different, and then you have this moment where you watch them treat your child a certain way, and then you are forced to decide what to do. Do you say something?
It was a moment.
Totally. It is a moment and it's really scary.
Yeah, your inner child is saying something, your inner mommy voice saying something else. It's so, so complicated. And then we compound that with being tired.
Or being pregnant.
Yeah.
Just hormones from the breastfeeding.
Parenting really makes you learn about yourself and how you want to change things from how you were parented and what your childhood was like. Not that I didn't have a great childhood. I had a great childhood and I had great parents. I have great parents, but you just want to do things a little differently. Is it similar for you too?
Yeah. And then I think about like, okay, but then he's still going to grow up and probably still feel the same way.
Yes.
Like, kind of like, no matter what
I
I do,
know.
it's still going to be like, you did this and didn't do that.
Totally.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect. You're not going to create a perfect childhood.
That's okay. We're just doing the best we can. We're doing what we think is the best.
Yeah. And that's what our moms did too.
That's so true. And they probably fixed something from the way they were parented. I'm sure it was very different. I know it was very different. So we'll just always be changing. Take some things, leave some things.
Yeah. But thank you so much for sharing. Very relatable.
Our final question we ask all our guests, just tell us, what is your normal evening routine? So after your daughter is asleep, what do you normally do?
Oh, you guys, I'm so boring after my daughter is asleep. She goes to sleep at like 7:30. Usually both my husband and I will have eaten before. So we'll come downstairs, we'll clean up whatever mess has been left over from the evening of all the toys being left out or the food remnants in the sink. We'll clean up, read our books in bed. I'm not kidding.
How long will you read for?
I like to read for like at least 45 minutes, but it's usually more than that.
Wow.
Yeah. I read until my eyes get like heavy. And then I am asleep by 9 every night. Yeah. So there's not very much exciting stuff going on after she goes to sleep. But I do like to wake up very early in the morning and exercise. So I usually will wake up just before 6, before she is up. My husband usually does in the morning, and I'll go swimming or use the bike. I feel like that's more like me time.
Okay.
But we don't watch TV and stuff. So my me time is like the reading that I do at night, or we'll talk in bed too. We'll catch up in bed.
I mean, you're getting your sleep and you're reading.
Sleep is so important, you guys.
And you're exercising consistently.
I read this book, Why We Sleep. I read it a few years ago, and my whole mindset about sleep and the importance of sleep just completely changed. Did you know that if you don't get enough sleep, it's the same as like basically being drunk when you're driving.
Yeah.
And then they talk about like mental health and like long-term effects of not getting enough sleep. And I was like, this is amazing. So yeah, we love our sleep. It's also really nice that Andrew also goes to bed early, because if he was doing stuff or he was more of a night owl, I would definitely feel like I was missing out on spending time with him. But we both kind of wind down at the same time. So that kind of encourages both of us to go to bed early.
Love it.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Motherhood Moments podcast. We appreciate you because we know life gets busy. Maybe you are doing chores during nap time, on a walk, running errands, or rinsing berries. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Vanessa and I are committed to keep sharing more motherhood wisdom. If you enjoyed this episode, please support us by leaving us a review. That's a wonderful way to show your support and let others know they are not alone. Until next time, and remember to check in on the moms in your life.